Close your eyes, take a deep, slow breath. Imagine you are floating. You are leaving the noise of the earth behind. The endless notifications, the traffic, the heavy gravity of daily life, they all fade into a distant blue glow. You are traveling back in time. The year is 1969. A small metal module is descending toward a barren silver world. Inside, two men are about to do the impossible, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. But as they touched down in the Sea of Tranquility, they encountered something the mission planners could never have predicted. They found a world that whispered secrets, a place where the laws of physics seemed to bend. Today we will explore what humanity truly found on the moon. Anomalies that challenge our understanding of the cosmos. Mysteries that remain unsolved to this day. Relax. Let the silence of the vacuum surround you. We are about to uncover things that simply shouldn't be possible. To understand the sheer magnitude of these discoveries, we must first look at the world they left behind. The Earth in the 1960s was a chaotic place. The space race was a frantic sprint against time and rival nations. Scientists viewed the moon as a simple, dead rock, a silent, dusty museum preserving the ancient history of the solar system. The prevailing belief was that it was a dormant, predictable satellite. Neil Armstrong, a man known for his icy calm and engineering brilliance, was the perfect commander. He was not prone to exaggeration. He analyzed data. He trusted his instruments. But when the Eagle landed, the instruments began to tell a strange story. The very environment outside their window was alien, not just in location, but in its nature. The moon was not a simple rock. It was a complex, baffling enigma waiting in the dark. Let us step out onto the surface with him and examine the impossible evidence piece by piece. But what hides within the lunar soil? As Armstrong stepped off the ladder, his boot sank into the regolith. Imagine a visual of that iconic footprint, stark against the grey expanse. We often believe the myth that lunar dust is just like sand on a beach, but it is not. This dust shouldn't exist in this form. It is razor sharp. Without wind or water to smooth its edges, every microscopic grain is like jagged glass. It clung to their suits like static magnets, defying attempts to brush it away. It was an abrasive, clinging darkness. A sudden shift in the light reveals our next mystery, the shadows on the moon. Picture a massive lunar boulder casting a shadow across the craters. On Earth, shadows are soft. Light scatters through the atmosphere, illuminating the dark corners. Let us debunk the myth that space shadows are just dim areas. On the moon, a shadow is an abyss. It is absolute pitch black. Armstrong noted that stepping into a shadow meant stepping into complete invisibility. The contrast is blinding, a harsh division between burning light and frozen void. And then there is the scent of the impossible. How can a vacuum have a smell? Imagine the astronauts returning to the lunar module, removing their helmets. Visual evidence cannot capture a scent, but their testimony is clear. The moon dust smelled strongly of spent gunpowder. The myth is that space is completely odorless, yet this dead world carried the sharp, burnt, metallic tang of an explosion. Scientists still struggle to explain how billions of years of solar wind created a soil that mimics the scent of artillery. Yet beneath this pungent dust lies a deeper riddle, the titanium puzzle. Consider an X-ray map of the lunar surface, glowing with chemical signatures. When Apollo brought rocks back, geologists were stunned. Some of these rocks contain 10 times more titanium than the richest ores on Earth. The myth was that the moon was a fractured piece of early Earth's crust, but Earth's crust doesn't have this concentration of titanium. How did a lightweight world forge such heavy, heat-resistant metal on its very surface? But what lies at the heart of these strange rocks? The age of the Moon. Visualize a pristine laboratory on Earth dating a grey lunar stone. Researchers expected the Moon to be the same age as Earth. We must debunk the myth that the Earth is the oldest body in our immediate vicinity. Some lunar rocks were dated at 4.6 billion years old. That is older than the oldest rocks ever found on Earth. The Moon, it seems, was ancient before our oceans even formed, a silent witness to the dawn of our solar system. An eerie discovery was waiting in the craters: the glass beads. Imagine a microscopic view of the soil, revealing tiny, perfectly spherical beads of orange and green glass. The myth was that the Moon was entirely devoid of volcanic color. But these beads were forged in violent, ancient fire fountains. They suggest a deep, turbulent past, a time when this quiet world wept tears of molten glass into the endless vacuum, freezing instantly in the cold of space. But how does this world react to impact, the ringing bell phenomenon? Think of a massive seismometer placed by the astronauts, waiting for a tremor. Later, Apollo missions deliberately crashed heavy equipment into the Moon. The myth is that rock absorbs shock like damp Earth. Instead, the Moon rang like a bell. It vibrated for hours. This behavior shouldn't be possible for a solid, rocky body. It sparked wild theories of a hollow moon, a concept that still haunts the edges of modern astronomy. A deeper look reveals the armor beneath the dust, the crater depth anomaly. Visualize a massive crater stretching miles across, yet inexplicably shallow. The myth dictates that a massive asteroid should carve a deep bowl into the surface, but lunar craters are oddly flat. It is as if, just a few miles down, the meteors hit a metallic shield, an impenetrable layer that stops destruction in its tracks. The titanium-rich layer seems to act as a cosmic armor. And what of the invisible forces at play? The gravitational anomalies. Imagine a 3D map of the Moon with hidden heavy masses glowing in deep red. These are mascuns, mass concentrations beneath the lunar maria. We often think gravity is uniform on a spherical body. That is a myth. On the Moon, gravity is dangerously lumpy. These dense, hidden pockets of matter pulled at the Apollo spacecraft, altering their orbits. What heavy, dense secrets lie buried just beneath those dark, flat plains? Let us turn our gaze to the strange flashes of light, the transient lunar phenomena. Picture a sudden, glowing red mist inside the Aristarchus crater. For centuries, astronomers reported seeing these lights. The myth was that the Moon was completely geologically dead. Yet, Apollo astronauts and Earthbound telescopes have seen inexplicable glows, venting gases and flashes. Even now, the Moon occasionally sighs, releasing ghostly vapors into the night. But how does the Moon remain uncorrupted? The rust-proof iron. Imagine a piece of pure iron sitting on Earth. It quickly turns red with rust. Now visualize the lunar samples, pristine and metallic. The myth is that all iron oxidizes over time. But the iron found in lunar samples does not rust, even when exposed to Earth's atmosphere. It possesses a strange, non-oxidizing property, forged by millions of years of solar wind and micrometeorites. It is metal that defies decay. A profound silence covers these mysteries, the true nature of a vacuum. Imagine standing next to the lunar module engine. On Earth, it would deafen you. Let's shatter the Hollywood myth of roaring space battles. On the Moon, the only sound Armstrong heard was his own breathing, his own heartbeat, and the static in his headset. The silence is absolute, heavy, and physical. It is a quiet so deep it feels like pressure against the mind, an infinite, soundless ocean. And yet within this silence there is a cosmic coincidence, the perfect eclipse. Visualize the moon passing precisely in front of the sun. The myth is that this is a normal occurrence in the universe. In reality, it is a staggering anomaly. The moon is exactly 400 times smaller than the sun and exactly 400 times closer to Earth. It fits perfectly over the solar disk. The mathematical improbability of this alignment shouldn't be possible. It is a masterpiece of celestial mechanics. But what holds this system together? The absent magnetic field. Picture a compass spinning wildly, uselessly on the lunar surface. The myth is that all planets and moons have a molten core generating a magnetic field. The moon has no active core today, yet its rocks are highly magnetized. How did a body too small to sustain a dynamo effect manage to magnetize its ancient crust? It is a ghost of a magnetic past, frozen in stone. A strange radiation haunts the rocks, the radioactive hotspots. Imagine a Geiger counter clicking rapidly as it sweeps over certain lunar regions. We assume the moon is a uniform, inert sphere. This is a myth. There are localized zones on the moon, like the Compton-Belkovich anomaly, emitting surprisingly high levels of radiation. Deep below, ancient magma enriched with uranium and thorium sits quietly, a natural nuclear reactor cooling in the dark. Let us examine the impossible geometry. The shapes of the lunar boulders. Picture a massive, jagged rock casting a long shadow. On Earth, rocks are shaped by wind and water. The myth is that lunar rocks are smooth from ancient lava flows. But many boulders are fractured, highly angular, and oddly placed, seemingly perched by giant, invisible hands. They are shattered by eons of thermal shock, cracking as the temperature violently shifts from boiling to freezing in an instant. And speaking of temperatures, the extreme shifts are terrifying. The thermal divide. Imagine Armstrong holding his hand in the sunlight while his feet are in the shadow. We think of space as just being cold. That is a myth. On the moon, the sunlit side boils at 260 degrees Fahrenheit. Step into a shadow and it plummets to minus 280 degrees. There is no atmosphere to soften the blow. It is an environment of brutal, absolute extremes. But what lies in the darkest extremes? The hidden ice. Visualize the deep, permanently shadowed craters at the lunar poles. For decades, the myth held that the moon was bone dry, a desiccated wasteland. But radar imaging and deep probes revealed something impossible. Millions of tons of water ice hidden in craters that have not seen sunlight for billions of years. A frozen oasis in the most unforgiving desert imaginable. A silent rain constantly falls here. The micrometeorite bombardment. Imagine a slow-motion capture of a microscopic speck of space dust hitting the visor of an astronaut. We often fear large asteroids, a common cinematic myth. But the real danger on the moon is the invisible rain of microparticles. Traveling at miles per second, they constantly sandblast the surface, slowly wearing down mountains over eons. It is a slow, violent erosion in the absolute quiet. Yet, some things remain untouched. The billion-year monument, picture the footprints left by the Apollo 11 crew. On Earth, tracks are washed away in days. The myth is that everything fades with time, but on the moon, without wind, rain, or geologic upheaval, those footprints will likely remain perfectly intact for millions, perhaps billions of years. They are immortal stamps of humanity, frozen in the eternal stillness of the regolith. But how did we capture this moment? The eerie transmission delay. Imagine listening to mission control, waiting for a response that takes precious seconds to arrive. The myth is that communication is instantaneous like a phone call. In reality, the speed of light creates a haunting delay. Armstrong spoke, and his words drifted through the void, crossing 238,000 miles of emptiness before touching human ears. A lonely echo across the abyss. Let us consider the isotopic twins, the chemical signature of Earth and Moon. Visualize a scale balancing a piece of Earth and a piece of the Moon. Scientists believed the Moon was a captured rogue planet. That was a myth. The isotopes of oxygen in lunar rocks match Earth's exactly. They are identical twins. This led to the violent theory that a massive planet smashed into early Earth, tearing off the material that would become the Moon, a world born from absolute destruction. A strange biological reaction occurred, the heartbeat of a hero. Imagine the medical telemetry monitors back in Houston. Neil Armstrong was known for a resting heart rate that barely changed during emergencies. The myth is that astronauts feel no fear. But during the final descent, as the computer alarmed and fuel ran low, Armstrong's heart rate spiked to 156 beats per minute. For a few agonizing seconds, the impossible almost swallowed them. And what of the psychological weight, the Earthrise phenomenon? Picture a tiny, fragile blue marble rising over the desolate grey horizon. Before space travel, the myth was that humanity was the center of an endless universe. Seeing the Earth from the Moon changed everything. It was a profound shock to the human psyche. Everything we know, love, and fight over, suspended in an infinite, uncaring black ocean. It is a view that humbles the soul. Let us explore the static electricity of space, the clinging dust. Imagine a feather duster trying to clean an astronaut's suit, only to make things worse. We assume gravity is the only force holding dirt. A common myth. On the Moon, solar radiation charges the dust particles. They repel each other and cling to everything else. It is an electrostatically charged environment where the very dirt acts like a living, clinging entity, invading every crevice. But what of the deeper composition, the missing lighter elements? Visualize a periodic table where entire sections are faded out. The myth is that the Moon is made of the exact same mix as Earth, but the Moon is highly depleted in volatile elements like potassium and sodium. If it was born from Earth, where did these elements go? They were boiled away in the intense heat of its creation, leaving behind a hard, baked, refractory shell. A strange glow on the horizon calls to us. The lunar horizon glow. Imagine a faint, ghostly arc of light above the edge of the Moon just before sunrise. Since there is no atmosphere, there should be no twilight. This is a scientific myth. Apollo astronauts sketched a mysterious glow. It is believed to be incredibly fine dust, levitated miles into the vacuum by intense electrostatic forces at the day-night terminator, a glowing halo of dancing dust in the void. And how did they navigate this surreal landscape? The loss of perspective. Picture Armstrong trying to judge the distance to a nearby crater. On Earth, atmospheric haze gives us depth perception. The myth is that human eyes work perfectly everywhere. On the Moon, crystal-clear vacuum removes all haze. A mountain miles away looks like a small hill nearby. Astronauts constantly misjudged distances, stepping into a reality that tricked their own biology. Let us ponder the philosophical impossibility, the bridge between life and the void. Imagine a biological creature evolved from the oceans, standing on a sterile, airless orb. The myth is that space exploration is just an engineering feat. It is a biological paradox. We are fragile bags of water and carbon, completely unsuited for the cosmos. Yet human willpower and mathematics built a temporary bubble of Earth, pushing life into a realm where it absolutely shouldn't exist. Finally, we return to the man himself. The lasting silence of Neil Armstrong. Picture the quiet, reclusive life he led after returning. The media myth is that heroes want the spotlight forever. Armstrong rarely spoke of the profound alien nature of his journey. Perhaps words were simply inadequate. How do you explain the absolute silence? How do you describe touching a world that defies earthly logic? He left the mysteries intact, a silent guardian of the impossible. Slowly, let us drift back to Earth. The grey dust fades and the vibrant blues and greens of our home planet return to view. We have walked the Sea of Tranquility. We have seen the unbreakable iron, the blinding shadows, and the ancient, ringing crust. The moon is not just a dead rock floating in our sky. It is a vault of cosmic mysteries, a testament to the strange and impossible universe we inhabit. Neil Armstrong took a small step, but he stepped into an enigma that we are still trying to unravel. The next time you look up at the night sky, do not just see a pale light. See the deep, ancient mysteries waiting in the dark. Thank you for journeying with us into the unknown. If this voyage brought you peace and wonder, please subscribe and let us know in the comments. What do you think is the greatest mystery hiding out there in the void?